The number of purchases in millions made on a website can be represented by the equation y equals 25 times 1.13 raised to the power of t, where t is the number of years after 2014. Interpret the parameters of the equation. So to interpret the parameters of the equation, first we need to know what the equation looks like. And so we need to know what is called the general equation for exponential growth. The general equation for exponential growth. Okay, and so the general equation for exponential growth looks very similar to an equation that we've been using for a while now. The equation we've been using for a while is y equals a times b to the x power. The general equation for exponential growth looks very similar. It looks like this. It is y equals a, and then in parentheses, 1 plus r to the x power. And that is the general equation for exponential growth. And each one of these variables in here means something different, obviously. So the y and the x mean different things depending on the context of the problem, but a and r always mean the same thing. A means the initial amount or the starting amount. And R, as you might suspect, is the rate of growth. And it's important to note that the rate of growth is in decimal form. So it's a percentage, but it's given to us in decimal form. So like if it's a 20% growth rate, R is 0.2. If it's a 35% growth rate, R is 0.35. So it's a percent given to us in decimal. Okay, so let's go back to our equation that we're given here, which is y equals 25 times 1.13 to the t power. Now it says t is the number of years after 2014, and it's measuring the number of purchases in millions made on a website. So we can say that y is the number of purchases in millions. And furthermore, we can say that t is the number of years since 2014. Knowing that it's years since 2014 is important because it gives us context for our initial amount. Our initial amount, our value of A here, is 25. We're measuring in millions, so that 25 is 25 million. What this means is there were 25 million purchases in 2014. Since t is measuring years since 2014, that means our equation starts in the year 2014. So we had 25 million purchases in the year 2014. So what is the rate at which our sales are increasing? And for that, we get our value of R, which comes from this piece in the middle, 1.13. Now, R is not 1.13 because if you go back and you look at our general equation, it's 1 plus R. So what we know is that 1 plus R is 1.13. And so R is not 1.13, R is just 0.13. So R equals 0.13. What does that mean? It means our sales increase by 13% each year. And so this is what it means when it asks us to interpret parameters. What does each piece of the equation mean? The X and Y in this case, which are really T and Y. T is years and Y is the number of purchases in millions. And then what do the numbers mean? The first number, that value of A, 25, is the initial amount, the number of purchases made in 2014 in this case. And then we have to calculate what R is, and the calculation's really easy. We just take whatever's in the parentheses and subtract it by 1, giving us 0.13, which is a percent. So 13% is the rate at which our sales are increasing each year. And that's how we interpret the parameters of an equation.